They tell you to be open, to share your thoughts, to be clear and honest. They believe that if you just explain yourself well enough, people will understand you, treat you fairly, and trust you. But Machiavelli, a master of hidden truths, would tell you the exact opposite. Every time you explain yourself, you give away power. You show others the edges of your personal map. You reveal what makes you react. You show that you care deeply about what they think. And once someone knows you need to be understood, they know how to steer you. This is a hidden trap. You explain yourself to avoid arguments, to clear up a mistake, to prove your intentions were good. But what you're really doing is letting others draw their own map of you. You're saying your way of seeing my story is more important than my own truth. Your misunderstanding is now my job to fix. Your comfort is more important than my own firm stand. And Machiavelli would call that a huge mistake. Because in the game of power, your image isn't something you chase. It's something you create. And the moment you try to defend your map, you've already accepted their rules for navigating it. Chapter 1. Your Uncharted Land: Why Mystery is Stronger Than Clarity. Let's be clear, explaining is not the same as truly communicating. Machiavelli believed in being understood, but he didn't believe in giving detailed reasons. To give reasons is to bend. It's like saying, I want you to like me enough not to think I'm wrong, or I need you to know I meant well, or I'm afraid of being misunderstood. But Machiavelli didn't fear not being understood. He used it. Because when you don't explain yourself, people are forced to guess. They imagine things, they study, they become obsessed with figuring you out. And in that shift, the power moves from you needing their approval to them needing your clear answers. That's the first principle. Mystery is far more powerful than simple clarity. Now let's talk about where this strong urge to over-explain really comes from. It's fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being called selfish, cold, or wrong. You explain yourself because you were taught that if people didn't understand you, you failed. But Machiavelli would tell you, let them not understand. Let them guess why you didn't reply to their message. Let them wonder why you suddenly changed your plans. Let them fill the quiet spaces with their own worries. Because every moment they spend trying to map you out is a moment they're not in control. And that confusion, that quiet tension, that's your advantage. Here's how it works. You politely decline someone's request. They ask why. You might start explaining, it's not a good time. I have too much on my plate. I hope you understand. You think you're being kind, but you're actually inviting them to argue. Now they can say, okay, but what if we do it another way? What if I help you with your task first? Suddenly, your no becomes a maybe. Your clear boundary becomes a discussion, and your power starts to fade. But imagine this. You say no. They ask why. And you just pause. Give a slight, calm smile. Maybe say, because that's my choice. Now they have nothing. No reason to argue. No weakness to use. That's not rude. That's Machiavellian control. If you're ready to make your presence as powerful and intriguing as an uncharted map, hit that like button now. Your support helps us share these transformative strategies. And for more wisdom on mastering unseen influence, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Your journey to silent power starts here. Chapter 2. The Cartographer's Strategy: Observing, Not Justifying. The same applies to disagreements. Someone accuses you of something you didn't do. They twist the story. They try to trap you. And your first instinct? Explain, defend, correct. But the more you explain, the more you let them lead the conversation. You're just reacting, operating within their boundaries. And that's one place a Machiavellian never stays. Because he understands. The one who explains is the one who feels less secure. The king doesn't explain why he sits on the throne. The general doesn't explain why he marched. The wolf doesn't explain why it left the pack behind. They act and let others guess. Because guesses can't hurt you when you refuse to care about them. there's a deeper truth here. Silence forces people to reveal more than endless talking ever will. When you don't explain yourself, you watch how others fill the quiet space. Do they get angry? Try harder to convince you. Get passive-aggressive. Become quiet and unsure. All of these are clues, secret signals, showing you how they act under pressure. And once you see that, you don't just win the moment, you gain a long-term map of who they really are. Your quietness becomes a test, and their response becomes their own confession. Machiavelli didn't just avoid explaining for pride, he avoided it for strategy. Because every explanation is like revealing a hidden detail on your map, a sign of what matters to you, a small crack in your shield. And the person who explains too often starts losing trust. They no longer move with power, they move with permission. And the moment you need permission, you're no longer in control. So what should you do instead? Say less. Pause longer. Let quietness do the work. When someone challenges you, don't defend. When someone misunderstands you, don't rush to fix it. When someone demands answers, don't give them immediately. Instead, calmly say, "That's not something I feel the need to explain right now," or "You're free to see it that way," or say nothing at all. Because in power dynamics, clear understanding is earned, not freely given. And the ones who truly want to understand you will learn to observe, not interrogate. And that's when the shift happens. People stop trying to trap you. They start watching you. They stop pushing. They start respecting. Not because you shouted, not because you explained, but because you refused to play their game. And the one who doesn't play often makes the rules. Chapter 3: The Uncharted Map, Building Power Through Mystery. Most people believe that if they're misunderstood, it's their job to fix it. They want to be seen as reasonable, fair, and kind. But Machiavelli would tell you, those who deeply crave to be seen a certain way are already controlled by those watching them. The moment you feel you must explain yourself, you have already placed the other person's opinion above yours. You are signaling that their view of you matters so much that you'll stop your own important work, your mission, your pace, just to make sure they're comfortable. And in that moment, you've weakened yourself psychologically. You are no longer acting from control, you are reacting from fear. It's a subtle shift, but Machiavelli built his entire philosophy around these small shifts that destroy power before anyone even sees them happening. Explaining yourself may feel like you're being clear, but most of the time, it's a hidden plea. Please don't judge me. Please don't get the wrong idea. Please still like me. And when people sense that, they see a weakness. People will never truly respect what they can argue with easily. And the moment you explain yourself too much, you become easy to negotiate with. Your personal limits become just suggestions. Your identity becomes something everyone gets to talk about. And your authority becomes a group project where everyone gets to have a say. Machiavelli would never allow that. He knew the cost of letting others believe they could redraw your map. He acted like this. He made decisions. He gave no warnings or excuses. He said little, and when questioned, he let the quietness speak. Not because he didn't have an answer, but because giving it would lower his strong position. Here's the hard truth. Most people don't want true clarity. They want control. When someone asks you to explain, it's not always because they're confused. It's often because they want access to your thoughts, to your reasons, to your doubts. Why? So they can prepare for you, adjust to you, outsmart you. Every detail you share, every time you give reasons or explain your choices, you give them a clearer map, a map they can use against you. But when you refuse to explain, they are left feeling unsure. And being unsure does something powerful. It creates psychological pressure. The pressure to guess, to figure things out, to wonder. And in that mental space, people show their true selves far more than if you had just explained everything to them. You don't get that kind of insight by talking. You get it by letting them struggle in the quiet you create. Imagine this. You step back from someone. They confront you. Did I do something wrong? You don't answer. You smile faintly. Maybe say, I noticed a few things. That's all. Then you let it hang. That moment will bother them because now their mind is working against them. It will replay talks, guess at reasons, panic, and make assumptions. And meanwhile, you've learned exactly what you needed to know, what they fear, how they react to power, how they try to regain control, all because you didn't explain. Machiavelli would call that strategic quietness. You didn't clarify, you observed, and by doing so, you saw more of them than they'll ever see of you. Here's what most don't understand. Explaining yourself often hurts your credibility. It suggests you're not fully sure of your decision. It signals uncertainty. It invites arguments. People trust confidence, not just being right. When you act decisively and say little, they assume you must have good reasons. They invent them. They fill in the blanks in your favor. But when you explain every move, you give them a chance to pick it apart. Oh, so that's why he did it? That doesn't really make sense. I wouldn't have done it that way. Sounds like he's just trying to sound smart. The very act of explaining opens the door to doubt, even if your reasons are perfect. Machiavelli knew this. That's why he created an aura of mystery. He let people wonder. And in wondering, they respected him more. There's another level. When you stop explaining, you force people to face something they fear. A version of you that doesn't need to be liked. That version is powerful, because that version can't be tricked. They can't make you feel guilty. They can't shame you. They can't lure you into arguments, because you don't need to clear the air. You don't need to set the record straight. You don't need them to understand your side. And when someone realizes they can't reach that deep part of you, they back off, or they accept your power. That's what power does. It creates space. It makes interactions happen on your terms. It makes your quietness more valuable than their noise. So how do you build that? You train yourself to handle tension, to stay calm when misunderstood, to resist the urge to explain every detail of your actions. You let people think what they want, and while they form opinions, you keep moving. Because the truth is this: you don't owe anyone an explanation. Your decisions don't need permission. Your path doesn't need applause. Only the weak need to be understood at every step. The strong move first, and let the story be written afterward. This is what Machiavelli practiced. He never rushed to defend, never tried to look innocent, never gave his opponent enough information to guess his next move. He understood that mystery isn't just a weapon, it's a shield, and the more you speak, the more holes you put in it. So stop trying to fix every small misunderstanding. Stop responding to every challenge. Stop thinking that quietness is weakness. Because the less you explain, the more they listen. When you explain yourself, you think you're protecting your good name. But what you're actually doing is putting it up for public judgment. Every time you explain, you tell the world, my image can be changed. That's what makes explaining so risky in Machiavellian terms. It invites arguments. It signals flexibility. It tells people they can shape how you're seen, if they just push hard enough. And once someone knows they can reshape you, they don't need to overpower you. They just need to keep you talking. Machiavelli understood that quietness scares weak minds. When you don't explain yourself, they imagine you know something they don't. They assume your reasons are too sharp, too complex, too private for them to grasp. They begin respecting your boundaries, not because they agree with them, but because they can't find your weaknesses. That's what power looks like, being unreadable by design. The person who refuses to explain begins to radiate control. Because when no one can see your hidden controls, no one can pull them. Now think about how powerful figures actually behave. Do world leaders explain themselves every time they act? Do top business CEOs get on calls to clarify every small decision? Do powerful people stop to explain why they acted when they did? No, because when you explain too often, you don't look thoughtful, you look unsure. And Machiavelli knew that being unsure is the easiest weakness for opponents to find. It's like a clear trail in the forest. If they sense that you need them to get it, they will never stop testing how far they can push you. Here's what's more effective than any explanation: a shift in your energy. Someone says you're cold. Don't explain. Act colder. Let them feel the distance. Someone says, you're acting different lately. Don't say, "Yeah, I've just been busy." Say, "Yes," then nothing more. This does two things. It forces them to feel the discomfort they tried to put on you. It makes you the mirror. They see themselves reflected in your quietness, not in your reasons. And that's where real psychological power lies. Not in proving yourself right, but in letting the silence reveal who's unsure enough to demand an explanation. We're not talking about being cold for ego. We're talking about self-control for power. Machiavelli understood that every kingdom falls, not by force alone, but by showing too much. Your true reasons are part of your strategy, and strategy should never be public. Every time you explain, you show your patterns, you reveal your emotional triggers, you teach people how to talk you into or out of things. And the person who can be talked into or out of things is not powerful, they're predictable. Predictability, Machiavelli warned, is the beginning of defeat. There's a saying, deniability is power, but Machiavelli would say, being unclear is even greater, because deniability means someone suspects you. Being unclear means they're not even sure what to suspect. They don't know what you believe, what your final goal is, what will make you react, or what will fail to. That kind of mental fog doesn't make you weak. It makes you untouchable, because opponents don't attack what they can't map. Here's a hard lesson most never learn. Explaining yourself never truly fixes how people judge you. People don't believe you because you explained. They believe you because your strong presence forced them to. You don't become respected by clearing up every misunderstanding. You become respected when your quiet strength speaks louder than their accusations. And when you stay strong in that quietness, even if they're still unsure what you meant, they know not to push again. So how do you put this into practice? Cut 50% of your explanations immediately. Next time someone asks, "Why did you do that?" answer with confidence, not details. Replace "let me explain" with "I've made my decision." That one sentence can stop hours of manipulation before it starts. Let people misunderstand you on purpose. This is one of the rarest skills. Planned misinterpretation. You know they're getting it wrong. You let them. Because it keeps them looking in the wrong direction while you move forward. And when they finally realize the truth, it's too late. You've already won. Power isn't about being seen clearly. It's about being unreadable, undeniable, and unbothered. Machiavelli never wanted to be liked. He wanted to be feared, respected, or misunderstood in a way that worked in his favor. Because the person who cannot be pinned down is the person no one dares to challenge. There is a moment in every social situation when someone looks you in the eye and asks, "So what did you mean by that?" And in that moment, the weak person breaks. They rush to explain, they want to fix the misunderstanding, they want to make sure they don't think they're rude or selfish. But the Machiavellian doesn't break. He doesn't explain, he watches. Because he knows, if they need to ask what you meant, you already have the advantage. They're searching, they're uncomfortable. They're reacting to you. And if you explain yourself, the power balance shifts. You just gave them control. But if you hold the quiet, if you let them struggle in the unknown, they'll never forget it. This is the final power of not explaining. You become a question they can't answer. And that question begins to haunt people. It lives in the space between what they think of you and what they can't figure out about you. That's where respect lives. Not in clear answers, but in planned mystery. Because in a world where everyone talks too much, defends too much, and explains everything, the one who doesn't simply feels powerful. Look around. Everyone wants clear answers. They explain every feeling. They give reasons for every move. They can't stand being misunderstood for a single second. But Machiavelli knew the opposite was true. The person who lets people get it wrong on purpose is always many steps ahead. Because while they're reacting to your quietness, you're watching their moves. While they're arguing about what you meant, you're already changing the outcome. This is how control is built, not by being seen, but by being felt. Machiavelli didn't need to win arguments. He didn't need to be liked. He didn't need to be understood. He needed one thing: to keep his position strong and unshakable. And explaining yourself is like a small tremble. It shakes your stand. It weakens your power. It shows that something bothered you. And once they see that, they know where to push again. The powerful person chooses differently. He doesn't explain. He redirects. He doesn't defend. He observes. He doesn't argue. He decides. And the more others push for answers, the calmer and stronger he becomes. Not as a punishment, but as a message. You are not allowed my clear answers, and I am not open for discussion. That message is louder than any explanation you could ever give. Let's get very practical. Here's what a Machiavellian does when people demand explanations. He gives short, final answers, such as, "That's how I operate," "That's what I chose," or "I said what I meant." Each sentence is like a strong wall, not an open door. It ends the talk instead of continuing it. He also flips the pressure. When asked, "Why did you do that?" he responds, "Why does it matter to you?" Or, "What do you think I meant?" Now they're the one explaining, they're the one exposed. You've turned the attention back onto them without raising your voice or losing control. Furthermore, he lets silence do the talking. He lets the awkwardness linger. He lets them fill in the blanks. He lets them feel what it's like to be unsure. Because power is not about filling space. It's about creating a strong emotional pull. People will say this is manipulative. And it is. Because manipulation is just smart planning with better timing. And timing is everything when it comes to power. Explain yourself at the wrong moment, and you give away the game. Stay quiet at the right moment, and you own the room without saying a word. The world doesn't need to understand you, it needs to respond to you. So next time you feel the strong urge to explain, pause. Feel that tension rise in your chest, that desire to be liked, to be forgiven, to be approved of. And crush it. You don't owe them that. You don't owe them comfort. You don't owe them a clear ending. You don't owe them anything. Because if you've chosen your path with strength, if your decision was made with clarity, then their confusion is their problem. Let them struggle with it. Let them question it. Let them talk to others about it. All while you continue to move, without asking for permission, without saying sorry, without explaining. That's what Machiavelli would do. Not because he was mean, but because he was focused. And focus is never sidetracked by the need to be understood. So remember this: the person who explains too much becomes predictable. The person who's predictable becomes easy to control. And the person who's easy to control is already defeated. But the person who doesn't explain becomes untouchable. Let them wonder. Let them talk. Let them guess. Because while they obsess over understanding you, you'll be walking straight through them, calm, unreadable, unmatched. The journey to becoming a master cartographer of your uncharted territory, where your silence is your greatest power, is a profound path to self-mastery. If today's insights have resonated with your desire for true control, you're ready to cultivate this impenetrable presence. Here's how to ensure your transformation continues. Hit the like button if this deep dive into Machiavellian wisdom has helped you understand the power of not explaining yourself. Your support helps share these vital lessons. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. Your journey to mastering unseen influence and becoming an uncharted territory begins now. I'll see you in the next build.